Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. My name is Howard Pinsky, Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe, and I hope you're all doing well on this Wednesday afternoon, or Thursday. I don't even know what day it is. But if you are tuning in live, let me know who you are and where you're tuning in from in the chat. We've got Laura and Annie and Ed and Camila and Cornell, Julia, Michuri and Sean and Felipe. There's just a lot of people in here. Sam and Malik. Again, if you're tuning in, throw your name in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from. You might have even been sticking around all day. We've had a ton of different streams. And unfortunately, YouTube or internet connection providers or somebody has been having a lot of connection problems today. So if the sound sounds weird or if the connection randomly cuts out, we apologize. We're doing our best. Michiru says, can I say hello in Japanese? Konnichiwa. Yes. Konnichiwa gozaimasu. All right, so what we're going to be doing today, let's hop over to my screen, and I am going to hop over here. Boop, there we go. So, Daily Creative Challenge, day number 2. Here's the deal. Head on over to behance.net/challenge/XD. You're going to find all the information about these challenges. If you haven't hit that big blue register button at the top, definitely hit that button so you know when new challenges are released. So every single day you're going to receive a new challenge, Monday to Friday, except the first Monday. I know, a little bit confusing. You can also join us in our Discord community chat. This is an optional step, but it's a fantastic community with over 45,000 designers, and you can get all the information about the daily challenges in here as well. You can ask questions, but more importantly, you can also share your work in the current challenge channel. So hop in there. There's a ton of people posting their work. I was in there this morning when I had a little bit of free time giving some feedback. We have some great moderators, Melody and Peter and Marissa. I think I saw, who else did I see in there? There was a bunch of people just giving feedback. Joss is in there. And all of you have been starting to post some amazing work. So keep that going. And if you also want to post on Behance, you can use the keyword XD Daily Challenge. And not only, so we can find that, but now we have these new galleries, behance.net/galleries/challenges/XD. It's a mouthful, but head over there. One of the mods will post the link, and we're curating some of the best and some of the most creative posts that have come from these daily creative challenges. So definitely post your work on Behance as well. And since this is a progressive challenge over the next 9 days, you'll be able to use this as a portfolio piece, which is super cool. All right, what do we have going on today? Well, yesterday we started the process with our sign-in screen. We designed and prototyped a simple sign-up and sign-in screen for a social media application. And that's what we're going to be designing over the next 9 days. And I would encourage you to really get creative with it, whether it's a social media application about learning Japanese, for example, for Michiru in the chat, or burritos, Animal Crossing, knitting, space, whatever it might be. Have fun with it. And then today we're going to be designing out the navigation bar for that social media application using component states. So without further ado, we are going to hop over to Adobe XD. Boop, there we go. And here's the template for today. And the nice thing about working with these templates is if you missed a day or you're starting on day number 7 or day number 8, you'll be able to actually download the starter file. And it's going to catch you up based on the designs that I've been working on each and every single day, which is great. But of course, if you are participating every day, feel free to use the ones that you were working on yesterday. All right, speaking of yesterday, here's what we did yesterday. We built out this very cute, very colorful sign-in screen using components. And if you're brand new to Adobe XD, hopefully you kind of learned a little bit about components. We'll definitely touch more on those as we go on, but components allows you to not only save elements for future use, but you can access them through your assets panel right over here to the left. You can drag them out onto any artboard and keep them all up to date, including the overridden instances. Super cool. All right, as for today, we are going to start with our navigation bar. And to start off very simple, basically to start off like I start off everything, we're going to grab our rectangle right over here to the left in the tools bar, shortcut key R. Grab that, drag out a rectangle towards the bottom of your design. Now, since we are designing for an iPhone, let me very quickly go ahead and set our navigation bar to our lovely pink that we created yesterday. Now, since we are designing for an iPhone, and this may not apply for designing for specific Android devices or older iPhones, but you have to keep in mind that somewhere near the bottom of the display, somewhere right about here, you don't have to add this to your design, but somewhere right about there, there is what's called a home indicator. And that's to allow users to swipe up from the bottom of their display and go back to the home screen. They can also access multitasking from down there as well. And per Apple's iOS guidelines, you can't have any interactions below that little chunk at the bottom. So you can't put buttons down there, you can't put anything else that you're going to have to tap on or interact with, right? And Nishant is saying, always rectangle, indeed. So keep that in mind, that there is this area down there that you really shouldn't put things with. So that's why I kind of made the navigation bar a little bit chunkier than I would typically make it, just to kind of keep that in mind, right? Maybe I'll leave that there. Maybe I'll just drop the opacity a little bit, just so we can kind of have a frame of reference. Zoom on in so we can see what's going on. All right, so for this navigation bar, we might go with 4 icons, we might go with 5. Typically, you don't want to go more than 5. You're going to probably stick with around 4 or 5. So what we're going to do for that, you may have seen this yesterday, we're going to hop into our plugins panel, and we're going to be using our Icons for Design plugin. Now, of course, if you have icons at your disposal, third-party icon manager, or they're in an XD file, or whatever it might be, feel free to use those as well. I'm going to start by typing out the word home, and we're going to grab, let's say, this one right here from Metro. For some reason, this plugin in particular, while it has great icons, it puts, I don't know, it just puts these icons, it just floats them in space, which is very strange. But anyway, I'm going to put one here. I'm going to change the fill to white. There we go. And maybe let's see what that looks like. It looks okay. I'm going to keep the size at this for now. We can always change that later. Now, next I'm going to type out search. Search. It helps if I spell correctly, right? There we go. Search, and we'll go for, there's so many search icons. You know, the iconic feather is pretty, I like the feather icon. It's got like a little tiny stem at the bottom, a handle for the magnify glass. It looks pretty good in terms of size. It is a border-based icon, so we can very easily make it thicker or thinner. We can move the border to the outside, to the inside, whatever you prefer, and that looks pretty good. Next, we might want some sort of a bell, and this will be used for notifications. And let's say this one from Awesome looks pretty awesome, right? See what I did there? I'm very clever, aren't I? I make myself laugh, which is all that matters. And then maybe chat or messages of some sort. And let's say, ooh, there's a few good ones. This one looks pretty good right here. This one is from the Iconic library. Beautiful. All right. Now, yesterday we did drag out guides. I don't have any guides on this particular artboard, so what I can do is I can drag out guides again. I think they were about 60 on yesterday's artboard, but you know, let's go with about 42, see what that looks like, and also 42 on the right-hand side. Now, to very easily line up these icons, what I can do is I can grab the one on the far right, move it over so it snaps to that guide over there, make sure this one snaps as well. And what we want to do is select all 4 of the icons that we just added. So you can do that either in your layers panel, just like that, holding down shift, clicking on one, clicking on the other, the last one, or you can do them directly on your canvas on Adobe XD. Once that's done, over here to the right at the very top of your properties inspector, you've got your alignment and distribution options. And if you press this one right here, it's going to distribute them all horizontally. So it's going to look at the one at the far left, it's going to look at the one at the far right, and it's going to automatically space those out perfectly even, which is great. All right, so we've got our navigation bar looking pretty good. I'm going to press the play button at the top, and yeah, it looks all right. However, we want to get fancy with this, because what's the point in doing any of this if you're not going to get a little bit fancy from time to time? Your developers may not like you if you don't do it properly and you don't communicate with them well, but let's get fancy, right? So what I'm going to do to start the fancy process is I'm going to grab the text tool. I'm going to type out the word home. Now that's not looking good, right? So I'm going to change this from Sophia Soft to Sophia Pro. I'm going to change the color to white, and I'm really going to bump down the color. Whoops, bump down the size. That's what I meant to. There we go. So we've got home, about 16 pixels should probably work. Let's see what that looks like. Maybe a little bit larger, maybe 18 pixels. And medium looks okay. Let's see what regular looks like. Regular might work. Okay. Now, we're not going to eventually see these initially, right? So I'm going to have home right about there. I'm going to have search right about here. Make sure these are left justified so we can very easily type them out, right? We're going to have here, we're going to have notifications. Again, we're not going to see these right away, so don't worry about this. And then chat or messages, whatever you want to call it, is going to be about there. So now what we're going to do, just to keep things nice and organized, we're going to group all these elements. So I've got my home icon selected. I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to click on the text layer, Command and Control G to pop them into a group, and just make sure to name them in the layers panel. We're going to repeat that process for each and every icon. Again, this will keep things organized, and once we get to creating component states, this will make our lives a lot easier. Group, and we've got chat. Bam, right? Beautiful. All right. So again, we don't want all the search labels visible immediately. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop into the ones that will not be active initially, like search, notifications, and chat, and just turn the opacity down to 0. Just like that. All right, beautiful. Now to indicate which tab is the active one, I lost my train of thought. I saw another Howard in the chat and my mind just went all over the place. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my rectangle one more time, and I'm going to just draw out a box right around here, and just maybe round out the corners a little bit like that. And I may even want to grab this color here, our darker pink, and maybe just put it right about there. Now, of course, we want to be able to see our home icon, so I'm going to just drag this right down to the bottom. I'm going to turn off the border, and maybe I'll just drop the opacity just a little bit, like that, right? And I want to make sure there's a nice amount of breathing room on this, and it looks like there might be, and that looks pretty good. All right, fancy. Now, of course, the search icon is a little bit pushing up to the side, so we don't want that. So we're actually going to move these over a little bit. So what we can do is we can select the background, the search icon, the navigation, and this one, and just line these up. Oops, that didn't work very well. I'm going to move these over like that. There we go. I think the text layer inside is throwing it off a little bit. Perfect. All right, so let's take a look how things are looking. So we've basically got, you know what? I want to make a little change. Make this a little bit chunkier. Round at the corners a touch more. Give it a little bit more breathing room. I'm very particular with this. Okay, I think that could do. And maybe drop the opacity a touch more. Yeah, not bad. All right. And just to give a little bit more breathing, I'm all about the breathing room. It's going to move this down just a little bit. All right, so here we go. We've got our navigation bar looking pretty good, at least the initial state. But we want additional states, and we want to turn this into a component so we can, use it on many artboards and keep everything up to date. So what we're going to do is we're going to select all the elements that make up this navigation bar. I can do that either in my layers panel or just by dragging out a selection over top of all of this. Now, once that's done, I'm going to either in my assets panel, I can go ahead and press the plus button over to the right beside component. I can also press the plus button over here, Command and Control K, a lot of different ways to create components in Adobe XD. Let's go ahead and press the plus button over here. It's going to create a component with a default state, which we can go ahead and just name navigation, just like that. And now what we want to do is start defining the additional states. So for that, we want to go over here to the right within our Properties Inspector. And if we press the plus button with a component already created, we're given the option of creating a new state or a hover state. Now, hover doesn't typically apply to mobile. Unless you're designing for an iPad with the new version of iPad OS, which does support cursor and hover, which is really fun. Maybe I'll get into that one day. But I'm going to go ahead and press New State, and this is going to be called Search, because we already have our home state created, which is our default, and now we're going to create our search state. And now that it's been created and active, which is indicated by the blue background, all we have to do now is make our changes. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab our active indicator back here and just shift it over to where search is. I'm going to dive into the search group and increase the opacity of the label. I also want to decrease the opacity of the search. I can do that by pressing 0 on my keyboard twice very easily. And now I can just start rearranging some of these things just like that. That's it. Super simple. So again, create the component, create a new state, and then just modify the layers inside of that component to create the search, right? Now we're going to do one more time. Press new state. This will be called notifications. We're going to grab the active indicator, drag this out a little bit, drop that down, drop that up. I can press 0 on my keyboard to very quickly bump that up to 100%. And we're going to select these, move these over like that. We can also adjust the search icon a little bit just to give a little bit more breathing room, because notifications is a little bit longer than the other ones. And you can always preview to see what things are looking like. For the most part, I'd probably play around with the spacing a little bit, but it looks okay. All right. Julie is asking, are all 4 buttons one component? They are. So all of this, as you can see up here, is all part of a single component. I'm going to show you in a second how you can navigate between all 4 of those states that we're creating. So there's state number 3, which is notifications, and we're going to do one more state, which is going to be chat. So again, drop that down to 0. We're going to bump that up to 100%, grab our active indicator, make some changes here. And in an ideal world, I would make sure that the padding is perfect on all 4 sides, but we have a limited amount of time throughout this process, so we're going to just kind of run with it. There we go. Move notifications over, right? And everything is looking pretty good. Let's see what that looks like. Not bad. Again, I would definitely encourage you to spend a little bit more time on making sure the padding and the spacing looks pretty nice. And of course, you can use your distribution options up at the top right, like I showed you earlier. But for the most part, it's looking all right. So we have our default state right over here. We have our search, we have notifications, and we have chat. Now, the big question is, how do we actually navigate between all of these? And I'm just noticing, I'm going to grab home, just kind of shift this over just a little bit. And I'll want to, just so everything lines up, I'm very particular like that. There we go. Now in search, I might want to just move this over. And I'm going to do the same thing in notifications. And also over here. All right, how does that look? Let's see. We have our default state. We have our search, notifications, and chat. Beautiful. Things are looking great. Now, here we go. Here's how we're going to actually interact between all 4 of these. We're going to hop into prototype mode right here at the top. And what we're going to do is, since we're on the home screen, we don't want to be able to tap on that, but we do want to tap on the search button. So we're going to click on the search icon right here. And of course, if you want to make it a bigger hotspot, you can add an invisible rectangle behind it, for example. But once you have that selected, you're simply going to click on that blue handle over to the right. Now, if you were using multiple artboards, you would just drag that handle over to the other artboard. But in this case, we're using components and states, so you'll simply want to click on it. Now, with that done, we do have tap selected as the trigger, which is exactly what we want. However, down here, we can choose the destination. And in this case, we're going to choose the search destination that we set up. Once we have that done, it's going to automatically default to auto animate. Of course, if you just want to cut to it, you can certainly change this back to a transition, but auto animate is exactly what we want. And we'll go for, let's say, ease in and out. We'll try that. And we're going to do a little bit of a slower transition just so we can see it in action of 0.6 seconds. We'll see what that looks like. So once all that is set, we're going to press the play button at the top. The preview is going to launch, and pay close attention. Here we go. It slides over, and it's just all magical. Let's see that one more time. There we go. Fancy, isn't it? So now that that's done, and it doesn't look too bad, let's actually go ahead and see what it looks like, 0.4 seconds. I think that's looks a little bit better. Let's try snap. I would probably only do snap or ease in and out. Ooh, that's kind of fun. I don't know. What do you all think? Let me know in the chat. Do you like snap or do you like ease in and out? Let's see snap one more time. Fun. I like that. All right. So once that's set and good to go, what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the other states. So we can continue from the home state. So we have our default state. We can go to the bell. We're going to choose our notifications. All the other properties are maintained. We're going to choose our chat, and just like that, right? Very fancy. Hashtag fancy. Thank you, Rick. Now we're going to go to our search state right here at the top. Jennifer says ease in and out. Snap, but slower. Yeah, I mean, it's snap, snap, snap. Oh boy, I think snap might win this one. All right, so from the search state, we're going to tap on the home icon. We're going to go to the default, and you can really start to see as you get the hang of using components and states, all of this becomes very quick, right? Press escape to go back to the parent and just keep the process going. Default state. We have our search, right? And we have our chat. And then finally, escape, we go to our chat, and we're going to go to our notification state. We're going to go to our, keep forgetting to press on that, search, and we're going to go to home. So we've gone ahead and wired up basically every single icon that's part of this navigation bar. And what that will allow us to do is now we go ahead and press the preview button at the top, we can click on any of them in any particular order. So I can go from home to notifications, back to home, to chat, to search, notifications, right? And you can have a lot of fun with these notification bars or navigation bars, and you can just click on them in no particular order, which is really nice. And if you're not following along with today's specific challenge and video, this file or this design will be included with tomorrow's starter file. So you'll be able to download that as well if you do want to kind of pick it apart and see how things are going. So Julia says, I'm going to probably need to read the manual on this one. So the nice thing is back over on Behance, you'll be able to watch this video again afterwards. You can also slow it down. YouTube has the ability to slow videos down. You can rewind, fast forward, do all the whole thing. So that'll be kind of nice. You can always rewatch this later. And again, that starter file will be available tomorrow to download. So you can always pick it apart. So that's about it. Component states. Now the nice thing is, again, going on the theme of components, once we start using this navigation bar across multiple artboards, if we needed to make some changes, for example, if we want to go to our default state here, dive in, select the background, and make changes to the color, we can easily do that. If we want to replace one of the icons, or maybe, this, for example, let's zoom in so we can see what we're doing. If we want to move the handle, maybe you just want to separate it a little bit to make it a little bit more fancy, right? You can easily do that, and it's going to update across all of your artboards, which is fun. Yeah, Jaren, component states are really powerful. I actually had a meeting with the team not too long ago, and they're working on a lot more additions to component states that you're all going to be seeing in the future, which is going to be great. So far in our navigate or our social media application, I should probably wire this up too. Hop into prototype mode. If we click on the sign in button, we can move this handle over to the second artboard. Oh, Anthony is saying, can you also add sounds when you click on the icon? Yes, and I think we're going to be getting into audio at some point during these challenges, but maybe I'll sneak that in if we're not. But basically, in prototype mode, when you have one of them selected, running out of time, but if you have one selected, you can press on the plus button at the bottom of the properties inspector, right? And you can add audio playback. So if you have, if you click on search, it could go bloop, or something like that, right? A fun little audio effect. So you can definitely do that. Now back over here, we might want this to slide over. So we're going to just choose a simple transition, and we're going to go to, let's say, slide left. We'll do ease in and out and 0.6 seconds. So now when we play, we can press on that and it goes woo, and now we can interact with our navigation bar, right? Quite great. All right, that'll be it for me. I'm going to wrap things up. Stick around in just a few minutes. We've got Kyle Webster coming up with a great, what's his segment called? I keep Draw Along with Kyle Webster. Kyle T. Webster. I should probably remember that, but he's a fantastic illustrator and great stuff, especially if you have kids. Show them these segments from Kyle, and they're going to have a great time. So I'll see you all tomorrow. Stick around for Kyle. Then right after that, we've got Voodoo Val and Brandon with a design off. That's going to be a lot of fun. All right, I'll see you all tomorrow.